Hello and welcome to SquishiVision, where I'm about to give my thoughts on Moon Knight, Gods and Monsters, the finale of Moon Knight. I don't think they've announced a season 2, so potentially a final episode, but we're certainly probably going to see the characters again the way the MCU works and one of the good ways the MCU works, but quite possibly the last episode of this as an independent kind of series. So, Marvel, I think, has a kind of hit and miss record when it comes to. Okay. Marvel has criticisms about it often ending in same v same, massive beams of energy fights, uninteresting kind of finales. And the TV shows have, I think these criticisms are true. I don't particularly mind. I never really watched it and be like, same v same. Well, people keep going on about it and people point it out a lot, and now I kind of can't ignore it and I get a bit sort of kind of annoyed about it. But I think I didn't really mind that much. And then the shows sometimes do this, and the shows also have these other issues where they reveal a lot of plot in the penultimate episode, and when the finale doesn't really resolve that, or feels like it kind of has to. The finale feels like it has to do the whole entire new plot because it's a new thing has been revealed. So, but they all do that. I think Loki was pretty much on point, but it's revealed, even though it's very predictable. Its whole way it did its finale was. The finale was very much its own thing. But even so, whereas WandaVision kind of the finale was its own thing because it resolved all the pre-existing plot. A lot of it was irrelevant in the penultimate episode. So whereas it's kind of well, I think the battle was a bit samey, but to be fair, we've also not seen much of Moon Knight fighting. In fact, very little. He's had very. This show's been very action light. Which I know some people are complaining about, because apparently in the comics, Moon Knight's kind of very violent, Punisher, Daredevil-esque, and people were expecting a lot of violence, and they're annoyed that they weren't getting the same kind of brutality. But I think they kind of wanted to focus more on the kind of psychological aspect of it, which I actually enjoyed a bit more than the violence part of it. But we did get some kind of combat from Moon Knight. They did resolve the kind of cliffhanger from the last episode a bit tidily, in that it was oh no, Steven's dead, and I thought, oh, they're gonna actually write Steven out of the show for a while, and it's just Mark, we have to deal with that, and then maybe they bring Jake in. No, Mark just pretty much runs back into the stand, gives his heart to Steven, seems yeah, I'm good, and then Osiris is just yeah, you can go back to life, no issue at all. So anyway, yeah, they do that. Layla's done this episode a lot, and Layla's great, and it's very much an Ant-Man and the Wasp situation where we focus on Mark, but in the finale kind of we give more prevalence towards Layla, and it's hopefully she's going to get a bit more prominent. Layla's a great character. Layla's, I think, actually one of my favorite characters, and I hope we get to see a lot more of her. And so I think this is docking a bit too much. For the music a little bit, because I think the music's quite quiet. I don't know. I'm not listening to the music. I'm just basing off the levels. Is that music even playing? Is it going? It's gonna go really loud now because I put it up when the music was fading out. What was I saying? So, yeah, Layla was great. Has a nice little arc, and then eventually she gets her own superpowers and kind of enjoys it, which I think is great. Hopefully, she kind of continues, being Tarot's avatar. It is interesting that both of them were struggling to kind of fight against Harrow. I think it's the what do you call it? It's the TV trope of the law of ninjutsu conservation, where the more enemies you're fighting, the stronger you are. And if you fight one enemy, it's a hard battle. If you fight multiple enemies, it's a very easy battle. And kind of goes in reverse, where the more heroes are fighting the bad guy, the stronger the bad guy becomes. But I suppose Amit's also portrayed as being pretty strong than Khonshu is. I don't know if she's particularly meant to be stronger than Tarot is, but apparently I guess that is the case. But yeah, so they have a kind of a fist fight, and we get this nice kind of imagery of the actual deities having a fight in the background, and they're really massive and kind of doing a skyline, very Godzilla-esque kind of way, which I kind of enjoy watching. I thought it was nice kind of imagery and implication of that. And it was clearly beating Khonshu, and then eventually Jake takes over, and Mark blacks out, and apparently just something very, very violent. We don't see it, and that might annoy some people. I actually think it was clever, even though it was kind of expected. I mean, even I was expecting it because it was kind of alluded to, and I had seen enough of the memes to know about Jake, so I knew it's gonna be a resolution. I figured that was gonna be the revolution, but it is fairly. It is well, you know. I think we're what do you call it? Spoiled by a lot of media now, and I think it's good to just enjoy a simple plot. And yeah, if we see it coming, fair enough. That's being very genre savvy, but that's not the fault of the writers. And then obviously gets revealed in this series only post-credit scene where Jake basically murders a whole bunch of medical staff and then executes Harrow, which is pretty dark. It's not explained why Harrow can see Khonshu, but he basically kidnaps him and executes him. And our guys that gets to, you know, be Spanish and play a third character, and presumably, you know, we're going to see a bit more of that. Maybe that's the way they tie him into kind of more violent portrayals, is that they get to choose. They get to have like all these different characterizations of the same character, because that's the whole point of his character. Love the kind of whole Mark Steven interplay as well. I think the CGI for the deities is pretty on point, especially like this the crocodile with the lighting. Yeah, I mean, okay, there's not much to talk about in terms of anything else. That was kind of very especially point beat by beat. It's actually a fairly short episode. It's only half an hour long, if you don't count the credits and the post-credit scene. And then yeah, the ending. Oh no, the ending's very Inception-esque, and I don't understand it. I'm gonna have to see if anyone else does, and because it's just me. But he says, you know, he gets Khonshu to release him. We flash to him in the real world, or in the kind of asylum. I don't know if it's meant to be like in his mind, or if this is what happens to him after he releases Khonshu releases him, or if this is like just I don't know, a thing happens later on. But you know, he goes to the place. He both him and Steven are kind of both in control. I think he's trying to be like, oh, so this is the real world, and it's like, actually, I don't believe you. And Harrow's like, Harrow's like loses control of his part, and I don't know if this is meant to be like something that happens, or is this meant to be like symbolic. It's very confusing. And then after that, he kind of wakes up in his bedroom, and maybe I'm hoping here it's just a case of he summarizes his experiences by imagining himself in this environment, which is a manifestation of things, and then he just wakes up in his own place. I mean, he seems to remember things happened to him, so I don't think it's meant to be this is all a dream implication, but that's how it's kind of executed and framed in terms of what we understand of like genre stuff. So I don't know, that's just something I thought was, that just confused me. But maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm expecting. Maybe this is my reverse genre savvy. I'm expecting too much. Yeah. I think this series was great. I think the series actually paced itself very well. I think a lot of Marvel shows had poor pacing, where they were too slow for like 5 episodes and very fast for 6 episodes. I think this paced itself well. I think it was, you know, there wasn't much story to tell, so it was a very brief kind of series, but that was what you needed. I hope we get more kind of actual Moon Knight content now that we've spent the time to actually focus on who Steve and Mark are. Yeah, I don't have much else other than that, and which is fine, because I guess I have to get very stuff to do. So those are my thoughts. And yeah, so that's my thoughts on this episode of the series. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the final episode of Picard at some point in the evening. So, thanks for watching, and yep, I'll see you tomorrow.